Hello everyone, welcome to In the Kitchen with the Westland Public Library. I'm your host today, Sarah, and today we will be doing a Cooking Beyond Pictures segment where the focus of the program is to cook a recipe without a picture, preferably from a cookbook without pictures as well. Sometimes these books do include illustrations, but not actual pictures. Today I am cooking from Love Soup by Ann Thomas, an all-new vegetarian recipes from the author of The Vegetarian Epicure. This is a little bit older than new, so take that with a grain of salt. Today we are going to be making the charred zucchini soup with yogurt and pine nuts. I chose this recipe specifically because one, it's fall, or fall is coming up. The time that we're recording is just a couple months away. So two things will be in ample supply: soup and zucchini. And I love charred zucchini. What's really great about this recipe is that she gives you two options. One, you can cook it in the oven, and then the other, you can cook it on the grill. So it's still a late, summer or early fall when the weather's still good and you want to be outside. Other great things about this is it uses a lot of fresh herbs. Well, I say a lot of fresh herbs. Mint. So that's really great during the summer. Lemon has a lot of zest in it. And so there's still a lot of that summer quality, but still appropriate for fall. So there's a couple of things that I made in advance. This recipe calls for 3 pounds of zucchini, which is great. That wouldn't fit in our little oven, so I had to char that at home. I did that yesterday, so when I add it to the soup today, I'll just add a little bit more time because when I add that, it will cool the broth very rapidly, and we just want to make sure that they get nice and warm. It also called for 2 medium onions to be sauteed for at least a half an hour. And what I really liked about this recipe is she says, always add 10 minutes to your saute. And that's somebody after my own heart because that's often what happens. This has been going now for nearly an hour. We have this beautiful array of things. Because it was a new oven to me, I tried to start off slow, but there were still some things that caught and got a little darker brown. But luckily nothing too burnt, so we will be able to use that. To get started, the recipe also calls for you to strain some yogurt about an hour before you're going to serve your soup. It specifically asks for Greek yogurt, and that's going to give it a lot of tang, which I like the idea of. I did not realize that we didn't have a colander in this kitchen, so I won't be able to drain it, but basically the recipe calls for you to put cheesecloth, several layers of cheesecloth in a colander, and put the yogurt in it, and then you will have drained yogurt after an hour. You can actually find varieties or brands that sell strained yogurt, so you could go that method. I was trying to stay true to the recipe, completely forgetting that we just simply did not have the colander. So a little different today, but I think it'll still turn out okay. As you can see, this kitchen, I have the pot right in front of me. I hope the mic isn't picking that up too much. But I gave ample room in our pan here for the onions to saute. You don't want to overcrowd them. So that's why I have this here, because it also calls for an ample pot. We are going to start by adding 6 cups of chicken broth and 1 cup of water. Now, the recipe calls for 7 cups of chicken. Sorry, 1 second. Thank you for your patience. I was preparing this so we wouldn't have to spend the next 20 minutes waiting for it to come to a simmer. So this recipe calls for 7 cups of chicken broth, light chicken broth, or 6 cups of chicken broth plus 1 cup of water. Now, the definition of light is not defined in this recipe, so this is really up to you. I know that more sugar means that you're going to have a richer broth. However, I know a lot of you in the audience cannot have a lot of sodium. So I specifically went with less sodium because that's how I generally tend to have my chicken broths. If you're making a chicken broth at home, of course, I would go with that. I'm still going to add the cup of water just because I didn't want to open up another box or a little container of chicken broth just to get a cup out of it. Whatever you decide to do at home. This also has arborio rice. This I found at Market of Choice, but it's actually kind of difficult to find in local supermarkets such as Fred Meyer's or Safeway. And so pearl barley has been recommended as a substitute. A lot of websites say that this is the preferred substitute. As you can, I don't know if you can see, but they are large grain rice. Maybe I'll do a shot close up later so you'll be able to see. But we're going to add the rice and simmer for about 20 minutes. I'll try to get a slow shot so we can zoom in on that later. Okay, perfect. Now I have this on a soup setting. You're probably going to bring this to a medium low or put it on high until you get it to a simmer and then bring it down to cover. We're going to see how long this takes because I just simply don't know. It's new technology for all of us. So we're going to take a pause for recording and be back to do a wonderful transition. As soon as it starts simmering, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it, let it cook for 20 minutes, and then we will be back and I will add all these other ingredients. So see you soon. Welcome back. So we're almost done with our soup, and lucky Edda here happened to be in the hallway as I was cleaning my silverware, and she volunteered to test it. And not only did you taste the original broth, but then you tasted it as we added the lemon and then as we added the yogurt. So tell them what you were telling me as we were going through it.
Well, I thought the lemon gave it a really good sour taste, and the yogurt gave it a big bold taste, and I really like that. Yeah,
and we were really lucky because you really like zucchini and caramelized onions. So that was like a great time to be passing by the kitchen. So anything else you want to add about the soup? Because you were saying this would be great in the fall and stuff like that.
Yeah, it will be really good in winter or when it was snowing. This will be a perfect soup.
And what makes it a perfect soup for that time of year?
Well, it's really warm, and when it's cold, you really like a warm soup. Mm-hmm. And this is like a perfect, healthy, and it's perfect to eat in the winter, and it's really healthy to eat.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here. A kid who loves me healthy in the winter, eating charred zucchini, onions, as well as went so far as to add the lemon and yogurt in it. Thank you so much for trying that, Edda. Oh, and age 8. Can you believe it? So kid approved. Not necessarily brother approved, but at least this kid approved. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. So you just heard from little Edda where we're going. This recipe calls then for the addition of lemon juice. I have about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice right here, and it calls for you to add them 1 tablespoon at a time for tang. You're going to taste in between sessions. Now, because I'm making this for a crowd and I don't have tons of silverware, I'm adding 2, and I'm going to use my silverware to taste it and then see if I want to add a little bit more. Luckily, this is optional, but as you heard, it adds a little bit of a sour note to start, and then the yogurt is really going to add the tang. So what I'm going to do, I lost my spoons. Thank you so much for your patience. Here we go. I have a couple other sampling spoons, just so I don't get, double dip for my colleagues, although my cameraman would be the only witness for a while. And what I'm doing is I'm going to grab a little bit of zucchini, because that sounds so good right now, especially after hearing Edda. I had just sampled it and then she was trying it. I'm like, oh, she got to try it before I did. Yeah, I can still taste the mint, which is really nice, and then I am going to add just a little, probably another 2 scoops of my tablespoon here. Most likely I'm going to add all the lemon by the end of this just because it is so good. And I might just do that because I love lemon so much. But if you have like an aversion to lemon, you don't have to add this at all. It was pretty good just as a base because of course you have those rich flavors of the charred zucchini and the caramelized onions. Oh, wow. That's actually a very substantial difference. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just add the rest of this. Yeah. Again, to taste, but I really like lemon, so I'm just going to force everybody to like lemon as much as I do. And then lastly, so you're going to go ahead and do your garnishes. In this recipe, it calls for olive oil as well as pine nuts. I didn't have pine nuts with me today because that was something I just forgot at home. But we do have a flavored olive oil. The yogurt seemed to go very well. Because it's still kind of wet and not drained, I'm just going to add portions of it just to give it that tang. Let me know in the comments if you try it with the strained versus the actual yogurt and see if there's a huge difference that you taste. Edda loved it, so I'm gonna go, she seemed to have a good palate, so I'm gonna trust her in this endeavor. Oh gosh. But I am going to, like I said, I'm not going to add too much because it still has tons of liquid. And I don't want it to dilute the soup too much. Another thing that this recipe calls for is that this time you can add additional salt if you find that it's not up to your liking. Because I have so many people in the library who will be sampling this in terms of staff members, I'm going to leave it kind of neutral and people can add salt as needed. But I will add a little bit of pepper, which is also recommended, just to add a little bit of kick. Although Edda seemed to have liked it without it. I do like pepper and I think that's going to give it just a tad. It's going, I think, going to complement it quite well. So just a little bit of pepper. My last spoon before I add the pepper. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like where this is going. So far, I highly recommend this recipe. Nice tang. It could definitely, I'm glad, I would probably recommend doing the yogurt in stages as well, because there's a really good chance that it can overpower your soup. And I can outsmart this. There we go. Sorry, I was just like, what's going on? I'm gonna do just a fine dusting. Give me just a second to adjust this. Or it's gonna get stuck because of the thing. That's okay. Okay. Freshly ground pepper, if you're going to add regular pepper or just pre-done pepper, just add just a tad bit more just because it is a little bit older. So let me go ahead and ladle this up now. Give this a sampling with the full gamut, charred zucchini, caramelized onions, arborio rice, mince, lemon, and yogurt. Yeah. Edda was right. This is an amazing, I agree that this will be a great winter soup, but I think it's also really great regardless of what time you're eating it. It has a great tang that you can easily adjust depending on the season. So it's a great base to start with, and then if you want to get more summer feeling, you can add more lemon or more of the yogurt, or you can keep it nice and mellow by continuing to add different flavors. I bet that this is a great soup that you can continue to build upon. So again, this is a charred zucchini soup with yogurt and pine nuts. Of course, I left out the pine nuts because of they just weren't here in my bag when I brought them in today, but I can just imagine how fantastic they're going to be. We have Love Soup by Anna Thomas, and I highly encourage you to check it out. You can get the list of ingredients and the directions down in the comment section below. Give it a shot. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Thank you for joining us today for our In the Kitchen program, Cooking Beyond the Pictures, and I hope to see you in person or come join me in our community kitchen segment. The link for that is down in the comment section as well below. Thank you.